This is the Canna Mom Show, a podcast chronicling the inspiring stories of real women in the emerging cannabis industry. Your host, Joyce Gerber, mom, lawyer, political activist, has been speaking with women from coast to coast and around the world who are leaders in the revolution of cannabis and caregiving, continuing on her mission to lift up the stories of the women creating the cannabis industry by sharing their canna stories with you. So go make yourself a cup of tea or roll yourself a joint, sit back, and learn something new about this magical plant on the Canna Mom Show with Joyce Gerber.
From the Tip O'Neill Studios in North Cambridge, Massachusetts, it's the Canna Mom Show. Now here's your host, Joyce Gerber.
Welcome back to the Canna Mom Show, where we continue on our mission of crushing cannabis stigma. All right, Dave, it's a big countdown. Just 6 shows, I think. 6 for season 5.
The countdown is on. Wow. We will pack a lot into those final few episodes. I'm quite sure.
We always do, but just to be aware, this summer, we will have no new shows. But as Dave has mentioned in the past, we have an enormous catalog of stories from women pioneering from 2019.
That's right. All fresh and ready to go. Go cherry pick what you want. I think, unlike other podcasts, you've had none, but very few return visitors. They're almost all new people, new friends in the cannabis world.
Right, that's true.
Right?
Or if they do come back, it's often as like a special event. They want to share something that's going on.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. True. Well, we're just multiplying. We're out there. There's lots of us.
Are you ever going to run out of Canna Moms?
Never. We're multiplying. It's like the bunnies in the springtime. We get out there and there's more of us and more of us.
That's right.
Yeah,
bunnies with gummies.
But my husband's like a bunny hater because we have a garden. He's been over the top, but I understand.
Last couple of years, I've noticed just in and around where I live, a lot more bunnies, rabbits, and I guess that's why they say they multiply like bunnies.
Exactly.
Like you just said. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So flowers. Speaking of flowers, I had a really big flower weekend, and it wasn't just weed.
Well, it was Mother's Day.
It was. And so my birthday was Saturday.
I missed your birthday. I can't believe it. Happy birthday, Joyce.
Thank you. I'm 59. I'm heading up there, people, but I look good because of cannabis, I think. All right.
Yes.
Saturday.
You're the youngest 59-year-old I know.
Thank you. Somebody asked me the other day if I was always hip, and I was like, I was never hip. I think I'm going backwards.
You're getting hipper.
Getting hipper.
That's what's happening.
I mean, I make quilts and I listen to show tunes, people. How hip could I be? All right.
Here's your birthday salute, briefly. This is the way the Beatles said happy birthday. And as you know, Joyce, the Beatles were fans of cannabis.
Through that.
They're supposed to say... well, you get the point.
I get it. I think that was an Elmo song back in the day. I can't remember the kids listening to the Elmo version. All right. My birthday, Saturday, Mother's Day. Oh, and then Monday, today's Wednesday, I attended the Green Goddess Power of Flower event in Haverhill, Massachusetts. Did you know there was a winery in Haverhill, Massachusetts?
I had no idea. The only thing I know about Haverhill is dangerously close to where you and I first met on the shores of Sunset Lake at Camp Telnor.
It's right over the border, but it's I have a whole new appreciation of Haverhill. So Caroline Pinot, who was actually our guest last week of STEM Dispensary, organizes the Green Goddess events. She has a Seasons of Goddesses this year, and this first event was at Willow Springs Vineyards. It was just a really cool empowering women canna event. And one of the activities was flower arranging, which I left in my husband's bathroom. I know, funny, right?
Yeah, that's something I actually wish I could do. I don't know if I'll ever take the time to learn it, but what was it like?
It was, I am not a grower. I'm not very domestic. I do feel like I should know how to arrange flowers. So I was kind of grateful for this little trick. So it was in a barn. So the event was beautiful on the winery, but the making the flowers was everyone had a ceramic vase about that tall. And then, I don't know, there are 40 of us in the room. There's a lot of us. And they had big buckets of different flowers. And the woman who was helping us talked about the flowers and how you use the flowers and how you create colors in the flower wheel. And then she just sent us out, and women everywhere running around pulling flowers. It was like, Project Runway. Did you ever watch that show?
Yeah, I'm familiar. Yes.
Grabbing materials, everyone. And then
Right.
at the end of this, activity, everyone had these beautiful vases just full of flowers. I actually posted something on my Instagram because we lined them all up. And what a fun way to spend the afternoon. That's the kind of event I like. And they had a luncheon, and it was just and a Parabola Center, what's the Law Policy Center here in Massachusetts, was all supporting their work they're doing for federal and local policy work.
Yeah, events are always more fun if there's a point, or if you're actually creating. So you created something and you got to take it home, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's cool. Where were you? You were actually picking the flowers from what? An orchard of sorts.
It was the local Caroline Pinnell is very local with her area, so she had some local, horticultural people who actually grow flowers that you probably get sent to florists who make your flowers. So she just had big buckets of different types of flowers, all about that tall. And then you could, roses and peonies and daffodils and I don't know, all sorts of flowers that I just didn't even know. And yeah, and it was a strange, fun event. And the funny part, when I go to cannabis events, I actually don't consume that much. I don't know why. I just whatever. I had they had a couple beverages, a couple people there with beverages, so I had a lovely drink, and there were a bunch of desserts that I didn't know were infused, and I took a whole pile of them. It was like little, and I was walking out, and my friend's like, Joyce, those are all infused. I'm like, they should really label that. Like, I do not assume.
Oh yeah. I mean, I live in fear. I mean, I'm very careful, but I live in fear that my son's going to eat a gummy because he loves gummy bears. So, if they're there. So yeah, label your desserts, people.
That's so funny. All right. All right. So that was me. That was my flowers. It was awesome. I loved it. And she's having a few more events. You can check it out. It's Seasons of Goddesses. And I think the next one must be in August. I think that might be her Green Goddess Invitational with the golfing.
Very cool.
It's fun. All right. What else? Oh, so before we jump in, I just want to give one more shout out to the Ganja Ball and Art Gallery. The organizer, Brandy Lefsick, was actually at the Power of Flower Day. I think she's getting some good ideas for her event. And her Ganja Ball is being held again in Orange, Massachusetts, Saturday, June 1st. It's being held at the Revival Wheeler Mansion, which may or may not be haunted.
Right.
Still going. The Ganja Ball might be is going to be a night of creativity and fun. There will be dancing and mingling and artwork to admire, and it's all about celebrating ganja and, of course, fancy dress and hats. So it couldn't be any better.
You have your outfit picked out?
Not yet. I know that seems strange, but I will soon. I will let you know.
Okay.
I'll probably display it in the back. All right, and that's kind of it for now. Thanks, Dave, for chit-chatting flowers and power with me. All right.
Love it.
Let's go for today's guest. She's joining us from Tennessee, where cannabis is not technically legal, but you can find it everywhere. She has, over the past 5 years, has experience as a CEO and owner of several cannabis-related businesses. As the CEO of Mink and Kimball Extracts, she oversees the medical processing, transport, manufacturing, and distribution of solventless extracts and innovative products. As the CEO and owner of Jades Elevation, she manages the cultivation, processing, and distribution of organic CBD-rich hemp and a range of concentrates and handmade goods infused with CBD. She has earned certification as a hemp farmer and a medical cannabis processor, but she is also a canna dreamer who gets things done. She is here today to talk about her mission to make a positive impact in the cannabis industry and then in the lives of people who use cannabis for medical or recreational purposes. Please welcome to the Canna Mom Show, Danielle Buntyon. Welcome.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. All right. So you got lots to talk about. So let's just talk about Tennessee. I talk a little bit about Tennessee because my son's in Nashville and I know that it's everywhere, even though it's not technically legal. So what's the status of cannabis and hemp in Tennessee where you are?
So hemp is now being regulated pretty much like THC. We are allowed to sell intoxicating hemp, so that's THCA, um, THCV, Delta 8, Delta 9, all those. We also are able to do consumption lounges, dab bars. So, like you said, it is not legal, but it's everywhere. It's very hard to be in Tennessee and not see some type of cannabis infused something. So Tennessee is very prime and ready whenever we get on board.
Okay, so there you are. That's just sort of, again, this is a state by state issue. We are still federally illegal. It's a controlled substance. It's a lot of problems at the federal level. So this is how Tennessee's handling it. All right. Before we get into what you're doing and your work and your story, we talked about the molecule, how this is just like really a strange battle over a molecule. Hemp derived CBD and THC is confusing everybody. So why are you so invested in this molecule? And what kind of drove you here?
I really love the plant, so I have been kind of interactive with it on the basis of just consuming, learning since I was about 12. So I was just very curious about how it grows, how you actually extract it, how you break it down, and just I was just fascinated how it was at one point very legal, used in very various items, and then all of a sudden it was like, no, this is no longer legal. And then on top of that, we're going to incarcerate millions of people for something that literally is just grown. So I got more and more into it, beyond just the recreational consumption, to really understanding that one molecule is actually 140 molecules that, if you broke down, could be sold in different ways to really elevate your life.
That's it. Okay. So were you a science kid? Were you invested in farming? Like how did this start?
No. No, none of that. So I'm gonna say the passion was really the plant. So the plant brought me here. So in order, because I mean, you got to think, I have my college degree. My mom is uh she is actually an alcohol and drug counselor. So she is
Yeah,
a
which we're
real.
going to talk about her. We're going to talk about when we get on. So don't, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But we're talking about her.
So it's like very interesting on just, the whole dynamic on how I got here, but it was very much a passion of just wanting the plant. So I even remember, like, when I was younger, I was like, you should be able to sell this. You should be able to, like, go to the store and buy it. So I just really think, like, really just being exposed to it at a young age, I saw it for what it was, and it was just really a plant that was really over stigmatized.
True that. Okay. Um, so just tell me about your business. What are couple of things that you're doing and how you're connected to Arkansas, because it's kind of not legal in Tennessee, but it is. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I started off with him, and as I saw, like, Tennessee not really pushing forward, basically they have a law that says we cannot until it is recreationally legal federally. So kind of skirt-tailed all of the education that I was taking on here, and I took kind of a leap across the border. So Arkansas is 15 minutes away from Memphis, and I found a location in Marion and became one of the first medical cannabis processors. So they opened up a license for a cannabis processor, allowing you to be an out-of-state resident. And then I started to do infused goods over there. So we focus on doing jams, jellies, different type of solventless extractions, and really using a full spectrum of cannabinoids to work with full plants, fruits, vegetables, different things that we grow in our garden, and make infused edibles.
That's so perfect. All right. So how did that, um, I guess like you grow, you're actually doing your own grow?
I actually get my material from cultivators, but I am
Okay.
allowed to grow the hemp and also the strawberries, different things that we infuse into the jams. So I am a grower, but unfortunately, they don't have a license open at the current time for me to actually go into growing full blown medical cannabis. But I am allowed to grow industrial hemp or
Gotcha.
floral hemp, as you would say.
Okay. So let's just, So it's like a little confusing just because it's different states, different processing. So you're talking about processing and you're talking about growing, right? These are two different. Yeah.
Yes.
So
So
like,
in
yeah. So like, let's talk about like specifically, how did you get a bit interested in just the part of the growing? You have a certification in that. What does that really mean? And like, yeah, how does that work?
Okay. So the crazy part is I was trying to explain to my parents that cannabis was the next wave. So in order for them to, back it, you have to kind of have a degree or a learning. So the crazy part is I found that in Nashville, they grow hemp in Tennessee State University. So it's called the farm. So they have a whole agricultural farm, horticultural department, and they were very big on learning about the implements of medical cannabis very, very early. So instead of leaving, I actually got to learn at Tennessee State University, went through the New Farmers Academy, and it was just really a blessing. So that kind of turned me on to growing, because at first I was like, I'm just gonna make stuff, because that was like what was lacking. Processors are always lacking. You will always have a job as a processor. So that was my realm. Like, always have a job in this, because as parents, they want you to go into something that's always going to be semi-lucrative. So I was like, hey, let me learn kind of something that people don't want. But when I went to the class, people didn't know how to grow cannabis, but they wanted to like do it so bad. And in Tennessee, like when everybody was first introduced to hemp, it was like 300 or 400 people wanting to sign up to grow these. But I would always be like the processor, and they would come to me and be like, well, do you think this is good? And I'm like,
Hmm.
no, it's not good. I can't process it. You need to do this, 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 and this. So that's really how I got into growing, having to be able to work with the farmers to tell them that I can't make anything out of what you just grew.
That's
Or
let's kind of back up on that because I find this fascinating, just sort of in the general hemp world. I don't understand why it isn't saving the world. I don't understand why everyone isn't processing it for something, but it does feel like there's something that's missing because I can see that there are people who want to grow it, and I can see that there are products that we need to have made, but I can't figure out what that thing in the middle is. And you're sort of saying partly it's the processing, and you're just a very small marketing. So is it? I
yeah.
mean, a small um, processor. So what is the issue? Why are there so few processors, and what is the hang up, and why don't people want to do this? Because you're the missing link, apparently.
A lot of times you are. A lot of time processing, distribution, really knowing what to do with the end product. So in the mind of normal people, if I grow it, they will come. Unfortunately, they're not coming for 20 acres. They're not coming for 20 acres at a time. Um, nobody really took the time to learn the market for particularly hemp and
Hmm.
industrial work. So it was, I'm going to grow it, but I don't know how to process it. So
Right.
to me, I kind of went backwards and like, what do you do with these? Because I was very concerned of having a product that didn't sell, and just being stuck with the plant material. So I
Right.
took kind of a backwards thought of like, okay, what am I going to do with this first? How am I going to process it? How do you break it down? Um, how much do you get from it? Because that was a lot of times when we were at Tennessee State University that they would talk acres.
Hmm.
And me as a processor, I'm like, I talk products. So I'm like, how many products can you make out of an acre? How many times can you break this down?
Hmm.
And the farmers were talking about, well, my floral hemp is so good and it smells good. And I'm like, well, by the time I get to the testing, it only tests 13%. I can't extract it. Um, so a lot of the farmers came in, and I'm going to say this as nicely as I can, as corporate drug dealers, but under the cloak of it was hemp.
Hmm.
So they never took time to look beyond, I'm going to sell all this flour for so much money and somebody else is going to know what to do with it, realizing you need to know what to do with it and get rid of it because
That's
you're
an excellent.
growing.
Yeah. No. That I talked to a lot of people in a lot of different parts of this industry, and this is really one of the first conversations I've had about the processing part, which is it kind of makes sense because we do have this weird vertical integration on part of the industry. And I was just reading an article today about alcohol and what they did to make to how it looks today. But it's the trifecta. You have they have the people who are processing the alcohol. You have the people who are selling the alcohol, and you do have the middle person. So yeah, that's really interesting. All right, there you go. Cannabis could look like that. We could have, the growers, the people who grow this plant, like wheat or corn or whatever it is you make alcohol out of. You have the
Yes.
stuff in the middle who are, processing, and then we actually have the good products at the other end. So I think we need some bigger investment in this. All right, that's my own personal opinion. All right. All right. So you are studying. So are you done with the Tennessee? Are you still there? What else are you doing?
I'm still there in
Are you still
Tennessee.
there? Okay.
We're still here. We're still operating. We do farmers markets throughout the summer and farmer market months. And then I kind of bounce between Arkansas, delivering products to dispensaries, getting to know the market, creating new products, and focusing on just diversifying the company and spreading it across the South. So we're also looking to get into more Mississippi market and just kind of doing a trifecta of balance, because like literally I can go to Mississippi in 15 minutes, or I'll be in Arkansas in 15 minutes. So basically just really focusing on growing our brand throughout those first core states and then moving out further. But always knowing if you keep it local, you will guarantee have a supply chain of people.
And again, I talk endlessly about CBD products. Do not buy them at your gas station. You pretty much need to know who your farmer is still, because it is a weirdly underregulated industry, and keeping it small, a craft grower is really important because they have more control over the process and you know what the products are. So, yeah, this is the kind of person you want to connect with. All right, let's talk about affordability. So you also talk about how you're an affordable processing, part of your business plan. So how did you figure that part out?
So it was kind of a trial and error, let me say. I went through every process that was in a book to tell you how to process. So it was um, basically botanical processing, heat processing, coal, just really looking into food science and digging into the processes, but also how many chemicals went into it was my major thing, because chemicals cost a lot of money. Alcohol costs a lot of money. Water was more abundant. So that's how I really got to doing a chemicalist based extraction. Also just really looking at how clean you can get it. You retain terpenes. It's more of a full spectrum. I'm not stripping different terpenes out of it. So it really was a deep trial and error of like, what works, what doesn't work. Because in some of my products, I really have to use an alcohol extraction to get it very medicinal. So I also learned that different spectrums of cannabis yields you a different effect no matter what. So a plant can be one plant, but when I break it down, you can really transform that into do really anything. I can make it as sedative if I want it. I can make it as active as I want it, energetic. So just really breaking it down and understanding the cannabinoids was what you just really was deeper into it.
That's so okay. So I do hear a lot about solventless, that it is, if you're using solvents, you need to remove the solvents or they're a problem. But I've never heard about someone talking about it as an economic or a business decision so much. That's funny.
Yeah, no, it and it's cheaper. I'm gonna say, like, as
Yeah,
bootstrap as I tell anybody, you were presented when you first got in, everybody was like throwing equipment at you to do a chemical based equipment that was like $400,000. And guess what? The extract is very the price of it doesn't even equal the cost. Like by the time you go through it and you rate a distillate, which is a big machine, it's really like you can get it for $3, a dollar. But if you do a solventless extraction, you can range it from 25. So even the percentage of rate, from growing hemp, I understood that knowing the farmer, handmade items cost more. Taking time to do it, people actually pay for those things. So that was another thing. So it was yes, to the startup cost was cheaper, but the price yield was actually more. So you got a better product, you got a better quality out of it, and like I said, you really got a full spectrum, and it's always better. Like
yeah,
I'm not gonna down concentrates. They're stronger, but in the experience,
I
a
agree.
solventless is more
Yeah,
experience.
that's interesting. All right. So you're doing it again. I talk about women who are coming into this industry and doing the things the way they want to do it. They don't have to fall into the old patterns because this isn't new. We don't have to do stuff like everyone else is doing it. So you're actually doing it in this very interesting way. And I love that you know all the numbers and you're talking this from a business perspective. So it's great. All right, let's talk about so the farm bill. This is something a little bit political, but just what's happening because it does impact hemp in a lot of ways. Do you see anything in there that'll help with the hemp farmers? Do you think that maybe it'll go up to 1%? Is this even being talked about? What's going? Do you have any connection to it? We're talking about it yet?
Yes. So yeah, we have privy, we have access to it. The Department of Agriculture is very open with it. I'm gonna say in the aspect of the timeline, when you present a hemp bill or the new farm bill, it takes actually 4 years for it to actually start to get into play. So by the time it actually gets into play, somebody else is going to come and give us a new farm bill, which is going to take another 4 years. But it's always about keeping up with the changes.
Hmm.
Um, I think with this farm bill, if they really let that 1% go through, I think, and this is crazy to say, I think more people would be back interested in the growing aspect of it because point three is such an arbitrary, hard to obtain number. Like, it is super hard that even if you're growing like CBG, which is supposed to like be genetically grown to grow with very low THC, you're even running into it becoming at least 10%. I mean, it's very hard to keep THC down, and as much as people separate it, and I scream it all the time, and I don't think anybody will ever hear me. These are really the same plants. They're just different varieties that we have genetically modified. No one is going to take THC out of a plant that has THC. That is the genetic makeup of it. So it's like we're fighting to justify this plant when it's just it's cannabis sativa. Let's take out THC, hemp, or anything. The plant is the same. I process hemp the same as I process medical cannabis. You use the same tools as you would do with any food. You can distill it like it's hops or an alcohol. It's a very versatile plant. Let's not keep it in a box to, as much as I justify why we have legal ramifications for the same plant, just different varieties, because it always kind of interests me when I go to the medical cannabis or recreational cannabis, how much regulation is around the same plant. But if it's hemp in there, they walk right past it. I mean, okay, we don't have to deal with that. And it's like, why don't you treat this the same way? Why are you coming in like hounding me about the same plant that if I I have the license is a fraction of the cost, the taxes are manageable. I am not getting um anxiety because on top of this tax, you have another 15, you have a state tax, you have a privilege tax, and I'm like, and no one will teach you. It's like, why can't I go to the USDA? At least they have grants. And it's like this one percentage
Hmm.
is throwing you out of grant opportunities, education, throwing you into jail.
Yep.
And I think like as much as I stay away from politics, especially in my state of Tennessee, I think we're battling ourselves with one word. I can give you intoxicating hemp. I can give you
Right.
THCO.
Right.
We can move a molecule and give you something else, but I always think like politically in the South is just kind of our stronghold on how we still kind of keep our Southern normalcy. How let's say it like that.
Yeah, okay. So again, the reason cannabis is on the Controlled Substance Act is a political reason. Alcohol is not on the Controlled Substance Act. Tobacco is not on the Controlled Substance Act. So I tell the same story. You tell the same story. I think people listening already hopefully believe it. This is a very strong narrative that wasn't told for a long time. So we just have to keep saying it because that's marketing. Narratives change the way people perceive this. So this is really important that you talk about it the way you do. All right, where are we on the? Let's see. Oh, okay. Let's go. Tell me about your mom. So you talked a little bit before that, I always talk about families. What did families think about when you got into this industry, or how did your family react? So talk a little bit about your mom and maybe your family and how they reacted to your decision, because you're obviously a very smart woman. You have a couple of degrees. You've been like really invested. You understand this, and this is how you're choosing to use your time. So let's tell me about your mom.
Yeah. So, I mean, hey, I come from oil and gas. I came to my mom and said, hey, it is a program in Tennessee and I can come back and I can go to school. So everybody knows I love going to school. So she was like, okay. But then I was like, hey, let me borrow your backyard. Uh, on
Okay.
top of this, we're gonna keep it super cheap. I'm gonna really try this hobby and I'm gonna grow it in your backyard.
What year?
Um,
What year were you starting in this? What year did you
this
start in
was
this?
2019.
Okay.
So about 2017, we did research. I was interested. People kept talking about the possibility of it moving further down south with
Hmm.
more regulations. So I started a journal and I was
Okay.
just telling her, like, I had all, just went down the list of weed that we should try. And
Hmm.
I had ailments. So I wrote this journal about it. And she was like, okay, you really into it. I was like, thank you. But I always consume cannabis. So, and she knew that. So there was one thing that was very familiar with her, because she's a drug counselor.
Right.
So
I
she is
love
a
that story.
she's a really rehabilitation person. So it's like, when we were talking, it was just like, and she also worked with sports. So she studied rehabilitation and drug rehabilitation, but she also studied like just education. Very degreed as much, but she took that path later in life. With me, she knew I consumed cannabis. And when I told her I was more into it, she was like, okay, I think this might be something for you. Was she just really understanding that I was going to literally consume her life with my dream? Not really, but she really dove into it and helped me, because I would be just at home trying to process this hemp. So imagine, and it was also like, okay, what is safe? So if we do this and I use alcohol and somebody likes something, so it was very much sitting there in my backyard. I built a shed outside to just experiment. So it'll be hours and days of just us trying it. We would get this material from different processors. She would go to different expos with me. We created formulas together. Now she really pushes me, even when I want to give up. She's like, nope. We have totally put all of the energy into this with you. Like, I'm vested into it now. She was like, they know her. Like, when I have to go speak and do things, she helps me deliver. She helps me package. She helps me go talk to people. When the crazy part is, I had a situation and she had to step in. Now I'm trying to be very boss up and I couldn't get pricing right. I just couldn't get it. I mean, it was like when I went and talked to people, it was something totally not clicking with everybody. And I was not ever bringing her numbers. So she's very number oriented, like, how much did you sell? How much is this? Where are you going with this? And I just was having a hard time sourcing materials at the right price. And like, the crazy part is, my mom never did wholesale or anything, but she, in
No,
her mind, she knows what's gonna make dollars and cents. I
she's probably
appreciate
she's been managing a household for a very long time. That's what we learned how to do. That's like literally how it works.
it. And she's like, it needs to be this price. And I'm like, I can't ask for that price. I said, hey, my mom wants to talk to you.
Oh, that
Hey, yes. And it's like, they get on the phone and my mom is like, I want it for this price. And they're like, okay.
love the Canna Moms.
And
Gotta
I'm
love
like, yeah, I'm like, can a grandma, how do you do this? And they're like, we just love your mom. She knows what she's talking about. And I'm like, but I wanted to like lean in and say, she never really did this before.
Doesn't matter. Okay, so how did you convince your mom? So if she was working in the drug rehab world, like what did she think of cannabis before, and what was the narrative that she thought was true about it?
She understood that there was something that I did and that was my passion. She was kind of on the fence, but like, she went to college. I took her to Colorado first.
Okay.
Um, Once I took her to Colorado, it was like a light bulb went off. Like, it was very much our first expo. Like, I kind of threw her in with me. I was like, well, we're going to go to this expo here. So we got invited and everybody loved her. She walked around for 2 days straight. I mean, she sold products, she learned stuff. And I think once she saw that, to her, it was now a business. It wasn't just someone, oh, I want to sell can. No, she was like, they got popsicles and they got
Oh yeah. It's
it was
a cannabis awakening. I say that happened to me. When I was in Colorado, I had a cannabis awakening. It's where it happens, people. It's the religious center of cannabis.
yes.
And it changes your story. So let's actually talk about what you do. All right, tell me about your businesses, what kind of products you're creating, why are you creating them, who's using them, all of that.
So we created the first product we created was the cooling pain cream. It's Soothe Cooling Muscle Rub. It is more of an athletic cooling gel. That was formulated for neuropathy and deep pain. I wanted to be a super workout mom and do things and realize that as you get older, your body aches. So that was one of the first things. And that was also a way that I incorporated my family in learning about actual full spectrum, not just using CBD, not just using THC. It was, hey, we grow these plants. I'm finna show you how I extract it. And that was like the first kind of thing.
So can I
So
ask you about the full spectrum when you do this? So I do love a good salve. I think it's the perfect gateway into cannabis or just using it for medicinal because you'll put it on your hands and they feel better if you get a good product and you know who your farmer is.
yes.
Uh, so how did you figure out? So if you have a full spectrum, do you recreate the number of cannabinoids or it's like literally whatever cannabinoids fall out of the plant? Like how does that actually work?
So full spectrum is basically you extracting it full from the plant. That is the thing that a lot of people did not understand early on. For me, another economic relief, full spectrum was easy. I didn't have to buy a different isolators and different molecule separators. It was easier to do a raw, just full plant extract. And it was just for me, I found out because I started with an isolate. So very first in the kitchen of just knowing about it was like, hey, let's get an isolate. Let's see what it was. I always had this thing that it didn't work. And I
Hmm.
would have to put more and more in there. And it was like, it didn't work. It didn't work. So I was like, okay, so maybe isolate is not the whole holy grail. So I decided to put the full spectrum into my grandmother's pain cream because she was like, this does not work. Like kept saying it didn't work. And I was like, nah,
So
okay,
like
let me fix
just like a regular pain cream and you added some drops of
so what we did was we added different creams and then mixed it in the full spectrum. So the full spectrum is basically what we call a full Fico or Rick Simpson oil
mhm.
extract, really decarbonate and boiling it down, boiling the alcohol. So we use an Everclear, very much very strong. So any strong alcohol creates a very good medicinal substance. Then we had to talk to a dermatologist and a basically like a skin scientist to understand how to get it into your pores.
Right.
So we changed our base to actually enter in because we were using at first we were using a very thick coconut oil. Now as great as everybody loves coconut oil, it won't get the actual cannabinoids to your skin. So you'll never really feel it. So a lot of times with the salves, a lot of people that's what they'll say. Well, I feel it, but it's not deep. So we had to go in and we changed it from a coconut base to more of a gel cream base to actually work with different athletes because I was like, I have trouble and I need a massage. And so I would like look for creams or bases that allowed it to be slick. So we added aloe, we did camphor, we did
Mm.
different menthols. We grow peppermint and a lot of mints. So we take a lot of that and create our own mint extract. So a lot of times, even powering plants, I found that it was a lot more efficient when you added in whole plants or fresh plants into your products. I really saw the difference from doing isolates, and I think a lot of people miss that full spectrum entourage effect when you just isolate things out.
That's okay. So again, when I talk about this all the time, that it's something about having the full plant experience and how it works in your body. And we keep trying to extract things which do work at some level, but it almost seems like from what I'm hearing from you, that if we simplified things, it would be simpler and safer if we used solventless and we used the whole plant, and there wouldn't be so much mass left over. Like, what do you do with? So if you extract THC that you can't use, what happens to that? What happens to that?
Oh, we compost it.
Okay, so it's not
Yeah.
like burnt or I mean,
You do. You actually can burn it. So when we do alcohol, we will more so do that in a way that you're gonna actually toss that. Now, when you do water, you can keep it. You can use an oil extraction and actually put that back into the soil and create a compost. So the only one that we really kind of throw away or toss in a manner is more so the alcohol base, but it's ever clear. So actually, in all, you just have to separate it and wrap it, but it still can be
it
compost.
doesn't. All right. So Jimmy, and so your mom's all on board. Did you have siblings or any other people who are like sort of like, you're crazy, I can't believe you're doing this, or very upset, or any of that stuff?
I didn't at first. I have a couple of family members that just didn't understand processing because everyone assumed I have a dispensary
Hmm.
or do a retail. So for my CBD, we do online and farmers markets. But people are like, "Can I get your THC products?" And I was like, "No, you have to go over to Arkansas." And I explained to them. Luckily, Arkansas allows visiting patients, so I still am privy to let as many people in the area know. But I have to explain to them that I'm a manufacturer, and it kind of throws them off. And they're like, "So what do you do?" I was like, "So I make products and I put them in dispensaries." Um, and they were like, "Oh, okay." So then it was more introducing that, "Oh, it's a business. Oh, it really is a business." Like,
It
yeah,
is.
it is. So it's
And this
I
and
don't
these smaller, this is really where the business is going to grow. I really do believe that. I think the dispensary model is just, it's very expensive to own a dispensary, first of all. And it started in as medicinal here specifically, where it was vertically integrated, which is just shouldn't happen anyways. And so that's one part of it. But to get the products into these dispensaries, to have good products, specifically for women's products, I talk about this all the time. Mom products, older people who don't necessarily know anything about cannabis could really be using it and need something good. Those smaller, like crafty things, that's really like, I think, the middleman, as long as you have places to sell it in your area. So tell me more about your product line, and who you're selling to right now.
So we have two product lines. So we split Jades Elevation is our pain cream, soaks, any type of topicals, any CBD, hemp derived cannabinoids are on our Jades Elevation line. Our Mink and Kimball line is our full spectrum THC medical cannabis line. And like I said, we do jams, jellies, edibles, concentrates. We're venturing into vapes, just kind of playing with that, but really focusing on solventless and keeping everything fresh, and just from good experiences over in the Arkansas area as we expand. So I'm enjoying both aspects of learning hemp and medical cannabis and seeing how we can be a force in combining both of them.
And then the extracts, is that something separate? Is that a business that's actually, yeah, taking, yeah.
So Mink and Kimball extracts. I as I build companies, I was building it in a vertical model, but as licenses opened, I played with my strengths. So Mink and Kimball extract is just our medical cannabis extension of Jades Elevation.
Mhm.
That is full medical cannabis processing. We work through cultivators, dispensaries, and partner with them to create products. So we are in the Arkansas dispensaries with Jay's Elevation and Mink and Kimball. So those are kind of our brand slash our incorporation of building our own vertical, but not quite having all the licenses to make a full component. So as those licenses open up in Arkansas, we most definitely want to be a present force in garnering them, working towards putting new recreational laws into place, new patient laws in place. So really putting our foot in expanding Jay's Elevation through more of a processors aspect. Because I think, like you said, it's very few. And that is still a shame. Even in the medical cannabis world, it's still very few processors in Arkansas. You were not to say you were not allowed, you still ways around, but they broke the licenses up.
Mhm.
So as a lot of places they did full verticals coming out the gate. In Arkansas, they broke each license down. So it's a cultivator's license, it's a processor's license, it's a transporter's license, it's a dispensary license. Now, the only difference is they have like state rules, which kind of is hindrance on my end because I would be an out of state person to do like cultivation in dispensaries. You have to live within the state for like 7 years. So hopefully, as they expand and loosen those up, we'll be able to kind of go in and finish the vertical with a dispensary and cultivation. But luckily, I still want to keep it boutique and keep it very, very small. So I would not ever be larger than about 2,000 square feet of grow space.
But I love, again, I'm here in Massachusetts. It's very different up here in Massachusetts how it works. And even most of New England is legal now. Each of these very small states has very different ways of doing things, but we're not a growing agricultural area. This is New England. So I keep talking about the southern areas where their agriculture is huge, and growing hemp not only could be monetizable if we could get this right, it would also be very good for the earth, I think. And I would hope, I would believe that people who actually are growing our plants have a real concern about what is happening in our country and the world, and that they would want to jump on and try to use this plant that, it takes toxins out, right?
Yes.
You can build with it. I know you can. My son is a guitar builder, and he made me a guitar out of hemp wood. This is a really durable piece of material that can be used for lots of things, and farmers would love to grow it if we could figure this out and make it a place worthwhile for them. And then, so do you have a vision? Do you have ideas of like what would help processing improve? Again, this is American made, people. This is made in America. It's patriotic. If we could keep it here, it would be great, because we don't have to send our materials overseas. We should be manufacturing it right here, doing what needs to be done. So do you have any ideas?
I'm just going to say, from the experience of the boom and bust of the industry, lowering the prices of actually the machinery, because the investment is large in manufacturing or processing. It took me a lot to look at the numbers and see what is doable, because I saw so many people invest into the $300,000 machine or the $40,000 pre-roll machine. Even as small as that, the numbers in this game are large. But for me, you have to dig and take certain words off, because manufacturing is manufacturing. It's just a different plant. So, but you have these products, and I learned, take the word cannabis off, take the word hemp off. Even those two words lower your manufacturing equipment costs by hundreds and thousands.
Wow.
So it's the wording. Now I think, hopefully, cross fingers, if we ever get to rescheduling, descheduling, legalization, I think you will see an influx of manufacturing, because it's, hey, now I can get a real live loan that's not predatory, and you're thinking that I'm going to make $1 billion. So you upsell me this, let's say, a steel, and I mean, a lot of people use them. They're steel milking drums. You can process in a steel milking drum, put some ice in there, throw some holes, stir, boom. Nobody would tell you that that's $5,000. They're gonna put it together, do the bells and whistles, give me some automation, and now it's $400,000. I have took out a loan on my house in my dreams, and nobody wants it when I'm done. And I just think, when we get centralized, take the words off.
But do you, so that's it. I don't know if we have time to talk about this, but do you think so we are talking a lot about it's going to go to Schedule 3 at some point. I've heard a lot of discussion about the 280E issues, the sort of very businessy issues. There's still concern that it won't be decriminalized. It won't help with anyone who's in prison. It won't help with social equity in any way. But I haven't actually heard anybody talking about manufacturing. So how do you think, you really do think this could help sort of get to that point if it's not criminalized?
I think And when I say just manufacturing the cost,
Yeah.
because research costs. Once you allow us to research, you are allowing opportunity for grant money. You're allowing a
Right.
lot of research money to start flowing in, which sometimes, yes, it does take off that cost because I can write a grant and say, hey, I need a milk still. And that's just even in agriculture, there are tons of grants to help you get equipment.
Hmm.
Once people are able to actually subsidize that equipment cost, because any failing company, you've bought tons of equipment. Equipment people probably make most money in cannabis. You might want to look into that. But they would take that word away. That word would not empower them to upcharge or add extra percentages or give me an extra $100,000 flag for the same. It's still a milk processor. You
Yeah.
just put cannabis on it. You still can do cow milk and process cheese out
Right.
of the same container, which if I just said it was a cheese processor, yes, it may be $50,000, but not $250,000, depending on your scale. Because even at the lowest scale in cannabis, you're looking at $100,000, and that's a low scale,
Yeah. This
a
okay.
very low.
I could talk about this for a while. This is really interesting. All right. So I hadn't really thought about how that impacts just the sort of the business part of this. If you can't be treated like a no, I always talk about just treating us not like, heroin or I don't know, plutonium. I don't know. They keep like really like we're something dangerous. And that comes all the way down to growing and manufacturing. If you can't get the normal deals that other farmers get, right? If you can't get access to federal subsidies like other farmers get, yeah, it's like the whole chain is just kind of not there yet. All right, we're working on it. You're a pioneer. You're doing it. All right, so Danielle, one more time, give a shout out for your company, your products, and where people can find them, and maybe your favorite way to consume.
Yes. So thank you guys. I'm with Jades Elevation. Jadeselevation.com is where you can find our hemp and CBD products. And MK Extracts or Mink and Kimball Extracts is our medical cannabis company located in Arkansas. If you're in any Arkansas dispensaries, check out our Jaded Jam. It is our infused jams and jellies. I'm sure you would love them. We have 12 flavors and we range from 500 milligrams to 2,500 milligrams.
Oh, I love that. I love the jam. Is that very popular, like with senior citizens? That must be the perfect way to
Yeah.
consume.
So we have a demographic of about 25 to 45 there. That's our biggest consumer. They're really good with about our older 35 to 45. Our I'm gonna say and they're 65 plus, they're good at it, but they most definitely have their preferences on which one they like. So I have 12 flavors. They most definitely are strawberry, very fruity. Grapes are there. So they like very basic a wearable or relatable jam. So they don't really go to my crazy jams because I can do some. But they love the just fresh fruit, natural
That's so funny. And
jam.
what's your favorite? What's your favorite way?
So my favorite way to consume is flour and then
Yep.
edibles, only because I'm really heavy-handed with edibles. So I do not understand the control aspect just yet. I'm getting better at dosing it out, but if it's good, it's gone.
That's funny.
So
It,
yeah.
it's so fun. I will. Yeah, that's true. All right. Well, you should enjoy what you have. All right, Danielle, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm down in Tennessee a couple times a year now these days, so I'll keep an eye out for your stuff. And people, can they buy it online? Any of these CBD
Yes.
products?
Yes, jadeselevation.com. We are fully stocked. Check it out. We have everything that's available online for you. If you have any questions, we are always available through our contact us. We will respond back within at least 6 to 24 hours.
All right, it'll be in the show notes because that is what we do. All right, so again, that's a show. So for my guests, Danielle Buntyon, and of course my Canna Bro, David Yaz, and our Canna Mom Show team, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to the Canna Mom Show, where we continue in our mission of enhancing the impact women have on the emerging cannabis industry by sharing and preserving their stories of love, kindness, wisdom, and hope. Thank you for sharing and preserving these stories so together we will crush that stigma around cannabis and caregivers. I'm your host, Joyce Gerber. This is the Canna Mom Show, and we are a production of Pod 617, the Boston Podcast Network.